Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about one of the most popular personality tests around, the famous Kolbe Index A, or Kolbe Index Personality Assessment. And it purports to help people reach their highest potential and help companies make the right appointments, but in actual fact what it really does is help no one. This is because the test itself is based on very dubious notions of human instincts, which can actually end up hampering people from reaching their full potential. So let's look at why that is, shall we? Now, Kathy Kolbe is a best-selling American author, entrepreneur, and speaker. She has famously designed a number of assessments and performance tests worldwide, which are used by companies and individuals all over the world. She's possibly, I suppose, best known for her rather controversial conviction that the abilities of human instinct itself is capable of neutralizing and trumping all learning disabilities without exception. She's also famous for popularizing the term Conation, which is what she calls the faculty of the brain that enables actions in accordance with instincts. She's founder and chair of the non-profit Center for Conative Abilities, and this center claims to provide training and to educate individuals and communities in practical ways to engage cognitive strengths constructively. One of Kolbe's well-known contributions, if you can call it that, is her Index Personality Assessment, which she developed based on her perception of herself as the world's leading authority on human instincts. Sadly, there are many others who share her misconception of herself, leading some of her more ardent followers to even bestow upon her bizarre titles such as MASLOW'S successor. Now, Kolbe, dissatisfied with an IQ-based identification of abilities, consequently discovered what she identified to be the mysterious cognitive pattern of human behavior, and which she claims has largely been ignored by academics. To be honest with you, it's probably been ignored for a very good reason. But anyway, her point of departure was the idea that every single person is gifted with the innate ability to creatively find solutions and to solve problems. Now, she bases this ability on human instinct, which she portrays as innate neurological processes which structure and shape our every action. She claims that the reason small children have seemingly inexhaustible energy resources is because of the fact that they act in accordance with their instincts, whereas if we act contrary to our instinct, it's essentially like swimming upstream or swimming against the tide. Does that make sense? Let's dig a little bit deeper, shall we? The theory claims to be bolstered by 35 years of scientific research and validation, but in reality this is nonsense. One of its major problems is that her fundamental proposition is all people possess, without exception, possess equal creative potential, making her a proponent of a kind of psychological equality, I suppose you could call it. But this is nothing more than wishful thinking that simply has no correspondence with reality. If it were true, we'd all have the ability to be Albert Einstein or Stephen Hawking simply by instinctively believing ourselves to be so. The primary challenge is that, like most personality tests, especially those that require a computer algorithm, the Kolbe Index A expressly claims not to show you what is potentially lacking with you, but to highlight your strengths and help you improve your levels of confidence, energy, and productivity. This, in reality, this result that you get is more akin to a motivational speech than anything else. You know, it categorizes everyone in the world into 4 different types based on their so-called instinctual or cognitive types. Now, where have we heard that before? The 4 types are the fact finder, the follow-through, the quick start, and the implementer. these personality types then purportedly determine your natural modus operandi, which is supposedly the way you ought to act in order to be true to yourself. You know, ironically, the very reason why such personality tests, which categorize people into these, you know, definitive personality types, remain so appealing to so many people is primarily because it inflates our ego and makes us feel all warm and fuzzy inside, because we're reading really nice, validating things about ourselves, stuff essentially we already knew. You know, it's also hugely popular in the workplace. A lot of employers use it because it's simply easier to attribute conflicts to personality differences or personality types that don't get along than to actually address the issue. But addressing the actual issue is, at the end of the day, really the only way to actually solve problems and progress beyond them, isn't it? What the Kolbe Index A actually does is to try and supplant the very real impact of our environment, background, education, and natural talents by reducing everything to mere instinct, as if human beings are solely driven by this aspect of our being. And so, of course, this is by far, very far removed from reality, because we haven't been driven by instinct since we lived in caves. Using this test as a criterion in job selection is at best meaningless and at worst completely irresponsible, for the sheer fact that the test completely disregards some of the most important aspects employers most certainly need in a candidate. Like, well, I mean, I don't know, maybe skills, experience, and abilities? You know, I'd be very reluctant to allow someone to operate on me because their instinct tells them to do so, or they instinctively believe that, you know, they can suddenly do open heart surgery. Imagine making an appointment to a job position based on whether somebody's cognitive instincts makes that person a follow-through as opposed to an implementer. I mean, what do these categories even mean? Do implementers care less about facts, then? Do fact finders fail at implementing company strategies? There's a reason why the ideal candidate seems to have a little bit of all four of Kolbe's categories. And that reason is simply the fact that the test has been designed in a way that those who take it are always pleased with the results, which of course leads people to start gushing about it and saying how wonderful it is, and, you know, how they really buy into what it says, when in fact what you're reading is nothing more than a series of Barnum statements. I mean, it's genius, really, because it keeps people coming back and doing the test, doesn't it? You know, someone took the test and very unironically noted in an article in the New York Times, what I especially liked about it was that the results validated who I said I was and how I regard myself. Okay, so the results validated what you said about yourself and how you view yourself. I mean, that says it all, really, doesn't it? But I personally believe that there's an even greater danger underlying the Kolbe Index Personality Assessment in purporting to help people, and in purporting to help people understand their own abilities, and in telling people how to behave in order to activate their natural creativity. It actually boxes people in and limits them. Now, despite all Kolbe's pretenses in terms of helping people reach their potential, prescribing to people how they should behave and what talents they should cultivate can actually have the opposite effect. It can seriously inhibit the development of human potential, much to the detriment of everybody involved, both potential employee and employer. Now, sadly, though, many employers and entrepreneurs have fallen for what is essentially a horoscope, continuing to pay £30 time and again to take this test online and get meaningless feedback. Feel-good feedback, certainly. You will be absolutely delighted with the things it has to say about you. It will really validate all the positive things you think about yourself. But that doesn't make the feedback any more meaningful. You know, some employers even foolishly require applicants to take and pay for this fundamentally pointless test, often at their own expense and often as a way to identify so-called serious candidates. Psychological realities are so much richer and more complex than can be analyzed by computer algorithm-driven personality assessments and career assessment exams as well. The Kolbe test is often simply too superficial to be able to produce any accurate results whatsoever. It should never be used by anyone as a criterion for employment, because not only does this pave the way for unfair discrimination, but it can actually more often than not cause employers to make fatal mistakes in their hiring process when it comes to candidate selection. You could be so biased towards finding somebody, you know, who was a fact finder or an implementer, that you disregard everybody else who doesn't show those criteria. You know, if you want to do a personality test online, there's a fabulous website called BuzzFeed. And the results that you will get on these BuzzFeed personality tests are probably just as insightful as the results you'll get on the Kolbe Index A. And the great thing about the BuzzFeed personality test is they don't charge you £30. You'll have saved yourself £30. So there you go. That's the Kolbe Index A, or the Kolbe Index Personality Assessment. What do you think? Do you do these tests? Do you buy into these tests? Do you believe these tests? You know, it's very interesting that if you do DISC, Myers-Briggs, and Kolbe, and put them all side by side, they all give you very different results. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go out and pay hundreds of pounds to do these tests as that sort of experiment, but, you know, when you do put them side by side, the results, they're not the same. So let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you believe in these tests? And if you do believe in these tests, do you also believe in fortune tellers? I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.